Well, we'll start with Keats's When I Have Fears That I May Cease to Be on page 960 in your text. Notice again Keats's fears, and he does die very young, but his sense that his knowing there, that fear that he will die young. Notice that this is a poem about poetry. Now, I'm afraid I'm going to die again, rather like that for 10 years, before I have a chance to say everything, to write everything that I want to. Notice the harvest imagery before my pen has gleaned, and there before it's, books have garnered up like you would do with grain, before I've harvested there, that full ripened grain, that there won't be time to say what I need to say, in poetry. That's the first when. The second when, notice that he mentions a high romance. Again, imagination. But before I can trace their shadows, these dreams, these imaginative images there with the magic hand of chance, before I can imagine them and get them written down. And then that third when I feel, and here fair creature of an hour, sometimes interpreted as perhaps the woman he's with briefly. I think also, perhaps better in context of the poem, the sense of this fair creature, this beautiful romantic image, this beautiful woman, this heroine that he's imagined, that I shall never look upon thee more. This brief imaginative dream that, he won't get to revisit, and that has not been captured on paper. They never have relish in the fairy power. They're this magical kind of thing of creation. Then that image, then on the shore of this wide world. Notice there's a shore, rather like here the world is this huge ocean, and how tiny he is there on the shore beside it. And think that here as he stands there and he thinks and observes that love and fame, those two things, both back up there, we talked about the poetry, we talked about the love, but they're beside what eternity looks like, what mortality, how tiny he is against that span of time, that image, that how important is all that in light of life and death. Again, his tininess, and even the tininess here, I think of the vision itself in terms of thinking about what it means to exist. On from that to La Belle Dame Summer Sea. Definitely here we have the image of a romantic lady. It translates to the beautiful lady without pity. A woman here without mercy. This is a classic femme fatale. Femme fatale, that fatal woman who appears in this text. Her story, we begin with a figure who's come upon, our speaker has come upon a knight, and he wonders, what in the world is this knight doing out here in this, is it fall or perhaps even winter? Notice the harvest is done. The squirrel has finished harvesting too. That this is late fall winter here. And he's run upon, what's this, knight in shining armor? What's he doing out here lying on the hillside, all pale? Notice stanza 3. He's sick. There, why would his brow be so white, and there, his face moist, and his cheeks have been really red, and that's fading. We've got a guy here who's very sick, likely dying. And so, hey, what are you doing out here, knight? And then notice the knight story, that we're following this like the ballad it is, and that typical ballad of kind of 4/3 meter happening here. That, why are you here? Well, there he saw this lady who's apparently a fairy lady. Her eyes were wild, and he certainly falls for her, making her, their flower chain garlands and bracelets, and there she looks like she loves him, and they ride away on his horse, and then and she's singing there. To him, and she's feeding him these roots and honey and manna, and and he's certain that surely she said there in stanza 7 that she loved him. She takes him there to her elfin crot. That's her cave, and he gets those 4 kisses, and then there, at least on her eyes there, and he goes to sleep and dreams. But oh dear, it was his last dream, stanza 10. And in that dream, notice here, this guy is seeing pale kings, princes, warriors, who are all death pale, just like the person now speaking in the poem. And they all say, uh-oh, she's got you too. She hath thee enthralled. She's made you her prisoner. Stanza 11, notice their lips are starved. There's no more kisses. And he wakes up, and here he is on the hillside, and that's why he's here. What does this say about both the speaker of the poem and us too, then, perhaps as readers of the poem? Uh-oh. For us to hear the story, for that speaker back at the start to run up on this, hey, what are you doing here? Does the lady have to have captured us too? On from that to Keats's great 1819 odes. These are from his most productive year. He's moving out of sonnet form into experimenting here with Ode to Psyche, with his first experiment in the ode form. Psyche. The mind, as your footnote says, or the soul. The myth about Cupid and Psyche. Cupid loves Psyche. She makes an agreement that he gives her, builds her this gorgeous palace, and she's to stay there, but she's never to see him. He only comes at night, and she promises not to see him. She has some jealous sisters who, when she goes back home, tell her, "Oh, you must be married to some horrid monster. Otherwise, he wouldn't tell you he can't see you. I bet he's hideous." So one night, Psyche takes her little candle, and she goes in and looks at the god of love there, Cupid, where he's asleep in their bed, and he looks so gorgeous that she has to bend over to kiss him. But when she does, some tallow from her candle falls right down onto his nightshirt, and he awakes enraged and says, "Love can't dwell where there's no trust," and out the window he goes. And Venus makes her go through some terrible toils, but eventually she does become Cupid's actual bride, and she's made from a human girl, Psyche. Notice here that image of the human mind, the human soul, perhaps an appropriate thing for a romantic with their great love of the human mind, also for a poet to enjoy as someone to worship. She is brought to Mount Olympus and made a goddess. But notice that happened. She is made a goddess in Greek, and there is the Greek myth. But it happens too late for them to build her a temple. It's too near the end of the Greek era of the worship of the Greek gods for her ever actually to have a temple. And so here in this poem, we're seeing Keats lament the fact that she has no temple, and also attempting to solve that lack. So here, the beginning. Notice he catches Psyche in a sort of compromising scene. Pardon, oops, I'm sorry. But there stands, or line 5, surely I dreamt today. It must have been, but or did I see? Was it real? That one of the questions for Keats continually. Hey, was his imagination, that dream? It's so real to him. Was it actually real, or again, was it just a dream? Uh, did I see you? And notice there, line 9, saw two fair creatures. I saw you and Cupid. And there, line 15, ooh, you all, those little arms were still clasped, and your little wings were still clasped. And there you were lying, and they're calm breathing. They're asleep and notice the image there, bedded grass. Yeah, they've mashed the grass down. They're bedded there in each other's arms, but their little lips aren't touching, but had not bathed you. They've just gone to sleep, and those lips that have been together have fallen apart, but they're still not actually said goodbye. But there's 21. I know that guy was love. But who were you? Oh, you were his Psyche true. This image that he has caught them in this moment where they're so in love. And then stanza 2. Psyche as the latest born, the loveliest, this fairest vision of any of the gods, he says, on Mount Olympus. There that you are the best of those, even though you don't have a temple, you don't have a voice, you don't have a lute, you don't have a choir, you don't have any special groves, you don't have any shrines, no oracles, no prophets, nothing like that. But even though you're too late for that, line 43, Keats here, he sees and he sings, and and hey, I'm inspired by what I've seen with my own eyes, that lovely vision of her and Cupid. So let me be thy choir. You don't have any important temple anywhere in Greece, but by golly, let me be thy choir, let me be your lute, let me be, I want to be your worshiper. Yes, I will be thy priest. I want to worship you. And remember here, he's saying the human soul, the human mind. Those Greeks may not have got around to celebrating that enough. But Keats intends to do that, and he's going to save a spot for Psyche, for the mind there, in some, line 51, in some untrodden region, some place to worship you, a temple for you, that untrodden region, a spot in my mind that's holy, where feet don't walk, and where nothing else there owns that spot, where, notice here the imagery of branched thoughts, those branched thoughts, new grown, fresh, new thoughts, and they're with pleasant pain. Is it not a pleasure to think these new thoughts that I'm gonna bring to you, and there, I'm gonna make this, line 59, a rosy sanctuary in this quietness, in this special spot of my brain. I'm gonna save a special spot just for you. Just for here, this human mind, human soul, human spirit there, line 60, and I'm going to use the working trellis or the wreathed trellis of a working brain. I'm going to bring you the flowers of my own thought there. And with everything that gardener of my fancy, my imagination can bring, and that's, hey, it'll make a delightful spot for you. And I'll leave there, I'll leave a light on for you, Psyche, and the casement open at night. We'll have that window open so that love himself, Cupid, can come right in. Ode to a Nightingale. It speaks of a bird that legendarily has, a tragic kind of history. And the song is supposed to be the sweetest and yet the saddest of songs. So here, as you listen to this one, watch for imagery of what's called synesthesia, Synesthesia, that blending of senses. So that and notice how many senses are involved in this poem, and how often you realize one of them through the other. It's like you aren't seeing something, but through smelling it, you're able to visualize it. So watch for the way Keats blends those senses. Also, as he listens throughout to this sweet